Injury updates for you. Feel good about where we are right now. I think these guys are doing a good job at this time of year, trying to keep themselves as healthy as possible, but nothing along the lines where we don't feel like we're going to be stronger than we've been. I'll address, today Jaylon Henderson got the Mountain West Player of the Week, and I'll always say this: one, I think deservedly so, and very proud of him to be recognized for that. Now, we've known Jalen. He's been on this team and certainly has had the opportunities to be in this program and to contribute in other ways, and he has last season, and got a chance to go out there. And you guys, like I said, Saturday night, you got a chance to watch him play. And I'll say this, that kind of shows the stuff we've talked about a little bit of guys just sticking through and working through some of the things that other people will just pick up and leave for. And then you get your opportunity, and the hard work he's been putting in did not go unnoticed. And it showed up in the game. It showed up, obviously, by being recognized. And I would say this for Jalen: I think that's great, but Jalen knows that he can play that position. We know he can play that position, so the recognition, I know he appreciates that, but the focus is on, what he has to continue to keep doing for this team, whatever role that might be. But for the young players watching, and for guys on this team that are younger players, and you're not getting yours right away, it's a game, number one. And if you're the best player, you play. Sometimes you're the next best guy, and when you get your opportunity, take advantage of it. And in this case, for Jalen, he took advantage of it. And so many guys I've seen do that, and so many guys, their mindset is not where it needs to be when that opportunity comes up, and they go out there and they fail because they haven't had the right mindset and prepared themselves properly to go out there and play the type of game that Jalen did. And so for that, not only am I proud of the game and what he was able to do in it, and then our team was able to win, but just to recognize the fact that when you do work hard and you do put in time and it doesn't always go your way, things can still work out, and you can still have moments and shine. And those opportunities, when guys have the right mindset, they show up. And I think guys and everybody needs to learn from that, and I think people can take a lot away from that. So we'll see how that goes moving forward, but for that particular game and that particular honor, very proud of his accomplishment for this last game that we played. And moving forward, Utah State, we're on the road. We know we got the last two, and this is the 1-0 week, just like we've been talking about all season long. So we have to prepare ourselves to do that. Very good offense. Watched them. Very good quarterback, skill players across the board. These guys are good, and they've proven that. Defensively, I would say the same thing. A lot of good players out there. Been very solid on defense, and these guys, have done things. We played them every single year, so we kind of have a history of that. I know they got some different coordinators and things like that on the staff, but as far as the players go, we recognize who they are, and obviously our guys understand that as well. Special teams, I've spent a lot of time on special teams watching them. They did some things to us last year, ran a fake last year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in special teams, so paying a lot of attention to that and just how we can try to better ourselves on that side of the ball. And so most of my focus has been really on that throughout the day, and I'll get to the other stuff later. But for our team, it's really what do we need to do this week, how are we preparing ourselves today, what is it going to look like on a Tuesday practice, and then moving forward all throughout the week. All right, what's that mentality each and every day? We'll get on the road Friday. We'll travel, get ourselves ready to play on Saturday, and that'll be the focus throughout the entire week. So with that, questions?
How valuable is it for Jaylon Henderson to have a full game's worth of game tape now to learn from?
Well, I think for him and everybody, it's valuable. You got a chance to see what he's able to do throughout the entire course of a game. And those reps, good and bad, right, you learn from him. And you're able to go back and look at, all right, how do we improve on this? Or, hey, this was great. And I told you about that throw he threw to Hightower. Now, we were just talking about it again. I mean, that was a fantastic throw. And he had prepared himself to do that. I think that showed up in practice, not exactly like that, but the success of the play showed up in practice. And, for us to be able to have Jalen really prepare himself all season long. It wasn't like, hey, you're going to play in this game and all of a sudden hit the go button and just decided, all right, now I'm really going to get myself ready to go. He's been doing it all season long with the expectation at some point he's going to play. And that's how you have to think in that position. He doesn't control. We have to control who plays. We get to decide, all right, who's going to go out there and get the majority of the reps. All he has to focus on is being the very best player he can possibly be at that position for us. And I think all that work through all those games where he didn't play, you got a chance to see a lot of that preparation show up in the last game. And we'll see what that looks like moving forward. But for, just for him, and I think the opportunity to play, everybody comes here. I hope nobody comes here to be a career backup. Some guys, I think this might be the most shining moment they have is getting a scholarship to Boise State and they just kind of settle in. Most guys are not like that. They're just, this was expected. You know what, I'm going to play Division I football. I'm going to Boise State. Now what do I do? What's it going to look like? And he came here to play. That was it, and he got a chance to do that.
You can take this, kind of however you want, but how have you seen John Hightower?
How should I take it before you tell me the question?
I mean, whether we talk about him as a player on the field or off of it, but how have you seen Hightower grow, even in this last, year here? I know he's only been here 2, but, how have you seen him just kind of get better, whether it's personally or as a player?
Well, player-wise, you guys have seen him. He's very good. He's very effective, very explosive on the field there. The thing that doesn't always stand out is John's ability as a blocker, his ability to go out there and lead for guys that are also making plays. He always does a great job of that. John's a very good teammate when it comes to what he's going to give for the guys around him. Sometimes he goes even harder when somebody else has the ball. When you see number 7 with the ball in his hands, and if John's out in front of him and AK's running, John's going to do whatever. He'll sell out to do whatever to help AK. You see him do that for a lot of players on our team. And I look at things like that. That's a sign of a great teammate, and guys respect that rather than just, about him. He's going to make plays. He knows he's going to make plays. He's in position to make plays, and he does make plays. But he's the kind of guy that I think cares more about what the other guys are doing around him. He knows he's going to get his, and so he's excited for the guys around him when they make their plays. And that stands out, and he does that stuff, too, in the community. I've gotten some nice letters from people about John Hightower and what he does behind the scenes that nobody really talks about. And then he's taking care of business in the other areas, and to me that comes with maturity, that comes with being a part of this team and the responsibility that you have to be a part of this group and the things that we ask all of our guys. I mean, nobody's unique when it comes to that. That's one of the things I hope our guys understand. Individuality is so easy to come by now. Everybody can do that. And so you can go out there and you can individualize yourself. You don't have to even be on a team to do that. You can go out there and do it just by having a phone. And we've had these conversations, but he's not like that. He's about the team. He's about what we have to do. And if we make a point of emphasis, then he knows that's part of, all right, this is the responsibility that I need to have for this team. And if this is my role, this is what I'm going to do. And he's got a large role in our offense, and he's proven that. So it's been a pleasure to be around him. I enjoy him. He's infectious. I think he's got a good, great personality. I think he's got a really good group of guys that he surrounds himself with. And, John's a guy that's very talented, too. Not everybody is as talented as John. And so when you're a talented guy and not everybody is like that, you have to be very careful about how you operate and how you present yourself. Because other guys that are not as talented and think they can be like that, if you're kind of a goofball, it hurts everybody else on the team. And I think that's where John, over time, that's shown up, and the guys around him. I think he's helped some of those younger guys in some areas that way.
Utah State, both are coming in this game negative in turnover margin. You guys, I think, have only won the turnover margin 2 games this year. It's kind of weird, I guess, that you're winning without winning the turnover battle. How do you kind of look at that this year, and I guess down the stretch here, these final couple games, how big will that be?
Yeah, it kind of breaks all the stats and things out there, right, of why you win games. We don't want to do that. It's not on purpose. We're not experimenting on that stat. I can tell you that right now. Yeah, I think we were even last game. That's not even where we want to be. You want to be in the plus category, right? You'd like to be in the plus category at the end of the year, and right now, we're not where we need to be. So take care of the football. Got to find ways to get it. There's opportunities for it, so we got to find ways when we do have those opportunities. Now, we did right out of the gate. We talked about that from the last game. That was a great play by Chase, and obviously we took advantage of the scoop and score. But hanging on to the football, the turnovers, if it's ball on the ground, a fumble, an interception, things like that, we just have to do a better job of taking care of it on the offensive side. And then defensively, there's opportunities. And we've had opportunities to get more turnovers that we haven't gotten. And part of that is just being in the right position. I think it really comes down to a lot of the fundamentals, too, of just playing that position. Whatever it is, you're in the right spot. We can go up there and ball comes to us. We got to find a way to catch it. Got to find a way to get more guys around the ball. And if it comes out, be Johnny on the spot and be able to scoop it up and at least possess it. And I think so, too. I think teams are doing a good job taking care of it. That's part of it as well. Maybe they're not taking the chances that they normally would take against our defense, and we don't get as many opportunities to go after the ball like we did earlier in the year. Because you go back to a few games, and those are big factors in the game. It's also big factors for us in games too, and we're certainly working on it every day. It's a focus for sure.
You guys were in a similar situation last year with the stakes in this game, and when you guys treat every week as championship week and all that, but you get to the game where there's something tangible you can win if you win the game. Does it feel different? Is there a different feel around here at all when you get to that spot?
Well, I think everybody knows. I think it's a different feel when you get to the end of the year and you're in it. And I think that's every single year, when we have an opportunity to be in it. So you don't really have to put much on it. It's just, hey, have you put yourself in a position at the end of the season to play for something? And, some teams you're just playing for pride. Some teams are playing for a championship, and we obviously have an opportunity to play for a championship. And so we talk about it, and it's championship week. But we don't try to deviate too much from what we've done, right? You want to build off what you've done. You want to focus on the things that you didn't do well. You want to improve on your process and not make the whole entire focus like all these things that we still can't control. We can't control that, until we go out there and play. We have to do the stuff each day to get ourselves ready to go play our best football. And, as the season has gone on, what is that going to look like when you're a player on this team and you're being asked to go out there and prepare yourself to play your best game? And we asked him to do that last game too, so it wasn't any different. Last week was championship week. This week is championship week, so the opportunities are there. We just got to take advantage of what we do each day and stay focused on that. And that's what it comes down to. I said it last week, you can win once a week, right? So Utah State is it. There's no other games beyond that for us. That's the focus. And really the focus too is being on the road and that environment. It's tough to win there. And we got to make sure that we have a great week and we get everybody back ready to roll. And we go in there hopefully very strong and confident and go out there and play our best football. That's the goal.
You see your two good football players, especially at the quarterback position. When you put on the film of Jordan Love, what stands out?
Well, the first thing that stands out, his size. So take away just the position itself. He's done a really good job. I said this last year, too. He's developed himself very well. Physically, he's got the tools, the size, the ability. And I haven't watched all their games. I don't know all his stats, and I don't know, I know this. I know he can throw it really well. I know that he's, from seeing him last year, too, he's able to escape. He's mobile. And I know he's capable of making all the throws. People say it all the time, right, making all the throws. He can certainly do that. And, it makes it a challenge. We faced some good quarterbacks this year, too. That's one of the things, in this league, there's some good QBs. And, that's just a part of it. And this is another step in the progression, right, of playing a really good player at that position. And he's certainly one of them.
What do you see in Utah State as some of their best attributes, a couple of things maybe on either side of the ball that will give you the most challenge?
Well, they're well coached. They play hard. And, they're physical. Those same things I think you see from good football teams. That's kind of what we see from them right now. And they're a common opponent, right? We play them every year, so you kind of know a little bit of that mentality that you're playing against as well. But I think all those things are very solid on their team.
How different are they from Wells to Henderson?
Oh, yeah, I got to go back to there's differences. Yeah, I mean, to get into that right now would take a long time. But, yeah, there's some differences. You know, what Coach Wells was doing there and what Coach Anderson is doing. You know, they were together, but there are some differences there. I mean, those coaches have made it their own, and they're doing some different things.
What is your relationship with Mike Sanford? And obviously, when he went over to his team, you're playing every single year. I mean, I don't know if that was interesting when you heard that or what that kind of that's like for you as a coach.
Yeah, well, that part. I mean, it's just part of the business, right? You know, what are you gonna? You know, you lose a job, you got to find another one, right? And wherever that's at. I mean, I don't know if it was one of those. He didn't call me up and check with me and ask me if he could be the offensive coordinator at Utah State. You know, that wasn't part of the discussion. But when Mike was here, you know, Mike played here. He's a Bronco, and Mike did a really good job the time he was here. And we obviously had a successful season. And so, you know, those things, they're always appreciated. Coaches have been in here, and, you know, they come in and some guys leave. You know, that's part of this profession. And he had his opportunities to go, and he got himself into a head coaching position, which I know was his goal. Things didn't work out, and, you know, he's in the position that he's in right now. So sometimes that's just how things happen. But, you know, as far as there's a lot of coaches now out there that have come through Boise State. You start looking at the tree from all the coaches that have been here and where they're at. I mean, there's a lot of Broncos out there in the coaching profession. So, you know, we got to go compete against them. That's the bottom line. And
Jalen said that he knew on Sunday he was going to start on Saturday. So I would assume he looked like anyway, he got most of the reps with the ones throughout the week of practice. Does this week's quarterback know who he is? And if he doesn't, how do you determine who gets those reps with the ones?
You put a lot of thought into that question right there. Yes, that's a tough one to answer. I think Jalen had a really good idea last week, and really you walk in there and everybody's ready to go, right? Hey, we'll figure it out. And this week, you know, I'm not really going to go into that, but like I said before, I mean, we're a lot further along and better at all the positions, that one as well, than we have been. So we'll figure it out. We get into Tuesday's practice. The thing about it in that room, here's the difference though, right? We've had every guy in that room has started this season. Jalen started, Hank started, and Chase has started. And you start talking about, as you get to the end of the year, as Chad was mentioning, right, you start getting to this point, you know, guys want to play. Guys want to be on the field. Guys want to be a part of it. So, you know, like I said, we'll figure out more of what that's going to look like as we move forward. But we have confidence in all those guys because they've all played. We've seen those guys and what they can do. And, you know, obviously that room has proven itself to be able to go out there and at least play at a pretty high level. And all three of those guys have done that this year. Tough games. Obviously the game we had last with Jalen, you know, we put some points on the board, but I'm looking forward to it, honestly, to getting out there on Tuesday's practice and getting going because I want to see how this whole thing is going to look this week.
Do you have a feel of how many teams in the country, are we talking 5, 10, that could go as deep as you guys do at quarterback? I mean, I think that's got to be, of all the teams I've ever seen covered, I don't know that I'd ever want my third stringer in the game to compete for a player of the week.
Well, our third stringer did a pretty good job, right? I mean, that's, and really, I guess you got to put them in an order like that pecking order, but you know, all those guys are ready to play, and he showed that. So I don't know the comparisons to everybody else. I know other teams have really good players, and there's guys sitting there, and there's a bunch of backup quarterbacks that are not playing right now that should be starting, I'm sure, and are really good. You just don't ever get a chance to see him as much as the guy that got chosen. But as far as our room goes, those guys have all played, and we feel good about it. Coach Hill and I, we know what our game plan is going to look like. We know the direction that we're going. We know who can go out there and practice and get themselves ready to play. We know the guys from watching film, what they've looked like and how they're going to prepare themselves and what kind of game plan we want to put together. So last week, hey, that's what we put together for Jalen. It could be different. You know, we could have some different things in there that we do, and that remains to be seen until we start getting all this put together and we have our 3 days of practice, fourth day, clean it up on Friday and get ready to roll.
The challenge of being on the road, and you guys played on the road 4 times this year, been behind by 14 plus in 3 of those 4 games, and then had to fight back. What have you learned about your team on the road, and what maybe lessons have you guys taken from that? Well,
yeah, keep playing. I mean, it's hard. Road games, you got to You're going to their home stadium. You know, we obviously feel like when people come here, we got a good opportunity, right? We like our home record. So you're going to travel. You're going to go through a little bit different process than you would at home. And a lot of it at that point, I mean, it's just getting yourself ready to play. And we have been behind, but those guys have continually kept playing in those games. We found ways to win. You know, not every one of them, but pretty close. And so I think we've learned that. I think we've learned along the way that, you know, these are some of the things that when you're on the road are going to be factors. Here's some of the things that we did well. Here's the things we didn't do well. So how do we take all the stuff we did well and eliminate the bad stuff? That's really the key. And, you know, it's not easy to do that. Every single week you watch teams go out there and the expectations are this versus this opponent, and things are completely different, right? I mean, the Oklahoma-Baylor game, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I saw the score, and I'm like, Baylor's got it. I'm like everybody else, right? Just like every other fan, everybody else is like, that's in the bag. And then I turn it, or somebody comes and tells me like Oklahoma won, and I'm like, you're kidding me. So I got to go back and watch this game at some point, you know, when the season's over, and just look at how they did it. But, you know, those things happen. We had that game at Colorado State, you know, a few years back. I mean, it couldn't go any worse. You look at the scoreboard, and it's like, you know, we might as well just go home at that point. But the guys found a way to come back and make plays, and that's the game of football. We're not the only team that does that. Other teams do it, and you just have to be ready to play the entire game. It's not going to go perfectly. You need to know that there's opportunities that are going to be presented to you. Take advantage of it. And when you're on the road, you got to deal with the other stuff, the crowd, the environment, all those things. That becomes factors that you prepare for throughout the week. But you still, we got human beings out there playing in the game, and you know, they're not just X's and O's, they're human beings. And so as the week goes on, you guys would be amazed. Sometimes you start off on a Monday, and then, you know, we go in there before Tuesday practice, and this guy's sick. You know, this guy got food poisoning. You know, this guy got, it's just like there's just real human things that come up, and it's like, man, everything was set for this particular player, and, you know, he's not there. Those are just all factors that happen that you got to deal with. And being on the road, there's some other things that sometimes happen on the road, and kind of getting in, you know, a different environment. You got to just make sure that we're prepared to go play.
Over the last 2 years, with Hightower and Shakir, whenever they have a significant impact on a game, you guys are basically unbeatable. What is it that, why are they so valuable to your offense?
Well, those two guys have gotten, I think they've gotten quite a few plays that they've made too. Those guys have made some plays. But then you got CT in there when he's making plays, right? Octavia scored on a reverse and got a touchdown this last game. I think there's a lot of guys. Killian Butler, you know, he went out there and it wasn't all the flash, but he had some big plays for us towards the end of the game. And all those guys are contributing. I think what happens is the guys you mentioned there, they're taking advantage of those opportunities. They're making big plays out of it. Coach has done a good job creating opportunities, but all the guys on our team, running backs, tight ends, receivers, all that, those guys can go out there and make plays. Those two in particular, I mean, I know the stats. I don't know all the stats like you do, or I'll give you that. But I know those guys, when they do make plays, I mean, it's explosive for us and it gives us opportunities to move the ball down the field.
I thought that was interesting that you said you got some letters in regard to John Hightower's actions, like off the field. I was wondering if you could elaborate that, and how important is it being active in the community? Because as a student athlete, it'd be pretty easy to not do anything, and nobody would ever say anything, but I think it'd be a lot harder to actually.
Sure. Well, I'm kind of jumping the gun. I was going to share this, but I got one recently. I don't have it in front of me. But the bottom line of the letter was John went to a veteran's home and made an impact. That's really what it is. I mean, and here's a guy that went out of his way to go make a difference, and as described, in an environment that needed some uplifting, and he was there to do that. And the gentleman that wrote me the letter was also former military, and took notice of one of our players in an environment where some guys could go put the jersey on and go do what they're asked to do to get their hours in, right? All right, this is required. You need to get, because we ask our guys, hey, you at least got to get 2 events in this community. And our guys, we've actually stopped saying that. It was probably 2 years ago I kind of mentioned that to our team, and now guys just do it. And so John goes and makes a difference and does it in a way where it's not there to check a box, but actually goes and tries to build a relate or connect with people that were there. And that's what the letter reads, and it's 2 pages long, and it goes into detail and talks about how proud this gentleman was to watch one of our players make a difference in the community, and not just stay there and check out, but stay there, connect, bring joy, and then make a difference. And then the next time go out there, and I think he had the stats for the game. You know, he had 170-some yards and whatever touchdowns, right? And go make plays. So you view these guys, you watch them on TV, and they're making plays, and you think that's all they do is just sit around here and just gear up, lift weights, and drink protein shakes and get ready to go play ball. And then they're out there actually in the community doing what everybody else does, making a difference. Because they're people, that's what they do. Football's going to be over. I think they all realize that at some point the game's going to end. So what are they going to do, all right, in their communities when they're done playing? And I got this nice letter, and, you know, I was going to share it with the team, so we're jumping the gun here, but I mentioned it, and that's really what it said. And it talks about, and he's not the only guy. I mean, I get letters like that all the time on our players about how they go out and make a difference in the community. And people notice that, and so stuff like that to us that is not about, you know, necessarily the wins every Saturday, but in our jobs and how we talk about culture in this program, that stuff matters. We get these guys for 4 years, and at the end of this year, a quarter of our team will leave and a quarter of the team will come in, right? And they'll go on and they'll go do different things, and then they'll be like a lot of our ex-players and come back here, or they'll be like Alexander Madison talking about go Broncos or bleed blue when he's in the NFL and he's living large and all that, but you know what? He still remembers the Broncos. Because here it wasn't about football for him. Alexander was a guy that went and made a difference in the community, and people surrounded him and fell in love with him, not because he's just a great player, but the kind of person he is. Our guys do that all the time. You know, I mean, that's really where the stories, we got 100 stories that people could write and talk about with our guys in the community and making a difference. And you know, Maggie O'Meara did the story on Bernice, and I saw that, and I got a chance to come home and watch it last night. Well done, always. She always, the Sevens hero is fantastic, so that's always a big-time deal for our family. But it's things like that, you know, and we're talking about kind of the connection that we have, but you see all our players high-fiving and stopping and shaking hands and doing the same thing that, you know, that I was doing in the video. So all of our guys are doing that. That's really the difference. And the 125 cookies that she made, I opened them up, I walked down the hallway, I turned back around, guys left the meeting rooms, and there was 2 left, and I got one of them. So I did appreciate that, and they were delicious, all right? And I will return the Tupperware, all right, in due time, if she's
A
wondering.
lot of your number 2s on the offensive line on Saturday, especially Jake Stetz. I think as soon as he came in, Helani hit his 50-yard run. What have you seen out of that group, especially considering many of them are going to be competing to be starters next season?
Well, they had to step up. You know, you get a few guys in there, too. Your starters go out. It's not always because we're just ahead. You know, we haven't been ahead so much in games where it's like get the other guys in there and just let them go get some reps. Those guys have come in because a guy goes down or needs a breather or something happens, and they have to go in there and play. And Stetz is a guy that's done that. Ked Connie's a guy that's done that. It's good to see Garrett Curran, you know, to watch those guys go in there and play and get some reps and see what they do, because you get some live reps against somebody else that's not your teammate, you know, that might be brother-in-law on you, you know, that week in practice and all that. You got a guy coming hard, so now what does it look like when you're playing a real physical opponent? And so those things have helped us. That'll help us in the off season when those guys are going to be the guys, right, that are moving up. We lose a lot of guys on this team up front, good players that have been starters for a while, and those guys are the ones that are going to have to take over and step up. So it's been good to see that, but still plenty of things to work on. You know, I mean, those guys in that group, I think they understand that, and we just got to get better there overall.